everyone, Professor King here. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to navigate the library website, just some basic easy steps on how to do so. If you are in my English 102 class, in addition to this video, I'm also going to be sharing some sources from other courses that I've taught in the past that can kind of provide context and be useful. One of which are videos that go over types of research that you can do in the humanities course at the college level. Those videos for the 102 class, if you're in my 102 class, those videos are optional, but they are helpful if you're stuck researching, because they kind of provide context and the how and the why and the what to types of research you can do. In a moment, I'm going to take it to the share screen, and we'll go from there. Again, this is just a basic video on how to navigate specifically our college website to get to the library and to do research there. So I'll take it. And as you can hear, yes, we do have guests today. That's Lionel. He's just, the way that he communicates love is by constantly whining and trying to get his way. So you may hear some of that love communication in this video. So if you hear like a wow, that's Lionel. As you can tell, it's the morning because my face is the size of a watermelon from all the morning swelling that I get. Welcome to your 30s, everyone. But also my brain's probably operating at about a solid 75%, we'll say. So a solid C brain is what I'm working with here, folks. My apologies if this video goes off the rails. Words of Ozzy Osbourne. All right, so I'll take it to the share screen now. And Lionel, goodness gracious. So as you can see here, this is our Fullerton College main page, fullcall.edu, F as in Frank, ULL, C as in Carrie, ULL.edu. And from here, you can access our library webpage. So if you see in the top corner here, there's a little icon that looks like a book. And if you hover over it even, it should say library when you hover over it. If you click on that from the Fullerton College homepage, it'll take you to our library website. Now, if you're watching this video at a different time, this guy, Lionel, be quiet. If you're watching this video at a different time in the future, this image on the main page might be different. Don't worry, they just update it every once in a while. So as long as you're at fullcall.edu and you see that library book icon up in the upper right corner and click on it, you should be fine. So you click on it, you go to the library webpage. It's library.fullcall.edu. So if you even want to just skip the Fullerton College main page and go straight there, just type in library.fullcall.edu. Again, this is going to be just a general overall kind of what to do in terms of research, specifically if you're in my 102 course, but you can use these same skills and apply them for any of the courses that I teach. So for 100, 103, 104, the 200 level courses I teach, any and all of these will be applicable. All right, so I want to kind of help you to be comfortable navigating this web page. So a couple of things I want to bring to your attention, right? Right now we're on the home page. We are in COVID times still, so there is curbside pickup. So if you want to access a print book, you can still go to campus as a student to pick up the book. So they do like a curbside pickup where you order the book online, again, like a print book that you would find in the library, and then they will deliver it to you curbside at Fullerton. So that during COVID times, at least, that option is still available. When we go back in person, there are study rooms, you can get supplies, all kinds of stuff. We're going to come back to research, but know that there is a specific kind of navigation tool there where you can access different kinds of research. Hands-on help. One thing I want to draw your attention to is the Ask a Librarian button. So if you click on hands-on help, then Ask a Librarian, it takes you to this wonderful page where you can chat in a chat box and talk to a Fullerton College librarian. So let's say you go into the chat, and I'm going to choose one of the more challenging poems that we did because it'll be more helpful to kind of unpack what's going on. So let's say I ask a librarian, do you have resources on Robert Browning's My Last Duchess? If I put that in the chat, it says, please wait, a reference librarian will connect shortly. Since this is during the hours that the library is open, a reference librarian will usually very quickly join the chat, as you see here, and then they'll respond with either, a question for more clarification, maybe more detail, maybe more specifics, or they'll say, okay, well, here are the things you can do, right? Okay, so they've already responded. They said, hello, let me check. It will take a few moments. So they're already looking into how they can help me find research sources, or at least avenues to find research sources that discuss Robert Browning's poem, My Last Duchess. And while we're waiting, we can kind of look at this page a little bit more in depth. It tells you what this page is over here. You can chat via email. You can also text. So if texting is easier for you than coming to this page, there's a text number here that you can access. You can also book a librarian. When you book a librarian, it's a little more hands-on. They have time to sit down with you. I believe it's usually like a half-hour appointment. And I've heard of people getting, the librarian kind of does a lot of the legwork and helps you to find like anywhere up to like 10, 12 sources, which is way more than you need for our essay. But it's a good idea to have more sources as opposed to just a few, because that way, once your thesis starts to develop, as you're drafting your essay, as you're doing more research, you start to have a much clearer vision of where you want to go and what you want to do. So if you only have like 2 sources, that doesn't help in terms of really showing you all the aspects that you may want to look at. If you've got 10, 12, even like 6 to 8, and you can pick from those which you think are going to be the most relevant, that's going to be a lot more helpful in terms of clarifying your essay. And again, the source minimum is exactly that for an essay. It's a minimum. You can always find more sources, especially if they contextualize your essay in a way that, again, clarifies and provides nuance and all these things we want to do as a writer. So we have all of those. The librarian has come back. The librarian is typing. So I'm going to see what they say, and then I'm going to say goodbye because, I don't want to waste anybody's time in this video. But I just did want to show you that this resource is available here. It also provides, if you see here, it has a pop-up chat book. You can click on sound, which can provide audio for people who need that accommodation. They can also send you a transcript of this entire conversation. Again, for people who require those accommodations, that's incredibly helpful. So I'm just going to wait to see what the librarian types, and then I'll probably say, thanks and goodbye. All right, so they gave me a link to the library's OneSource that lists what we have available. And then they give you know, they tell me that I need a login and blah, 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 blah. And then I just say, thank you so much. This was very helpful. And I'm on my way, right? So that's one thing we could do. And you could cut and paste that here and voila, right? So that's hands-on help, right? There's also programs and workshops that help you to like better, you know, familiarize yourself with things like research and writing and the library and, you know, yada, yada, technological stuff that'll help you, right? Don't worry about faculty resources. That's for old goats like me. But let's go back to research. So research, we have all these different things here. We'll go over the guides and databases, journals, and periodicals in a moment. But I want to bring one thing to your attention, which is Interlibrary Loan. This is helpful, especially if you start your research early. What Interlibrary Loan is, or sometimes you'll see it as just ILL, Interlibrary Loan. What Interlibrary Loan allows you to do is if you're looking for a specific print material that's not at our library, you can request an interlibrary loan from another college. Sometimes it's a nearby college, sometimes it's a little further away. Depending on the distance of the college from here, it may take a few more days to get here, but you can actually check out a book from another library using interlibrary loan. Again, you want to do it if you're early, if you start your research early, because it does take time for those books to come over, you know, to be shipped or whatever. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. And even when you transfer to a four-year or maybe a technical or trade school, a lot of those schools with libraries will have interlibrary loan. A lot of public libraries have them as well. So keep that in mind. But I want to go back to the homepage now, because I want to show you, again, a quick and easy way to do research. So you scroll down the homepage, you get to this, I always call it the white box. You get to this white box here, kind of mid-right portion of the web page, and you see that there's the one search that the librarian mentioned when we did the Ask a Librarian just a moment ago. And you can put in, you know, any old search term you want, like Robert Browning, okay? And let's just do a keyword search. I'll even put it in quotation marks. We'll see if anything comes up. So this gives us every single thing related to Robert Browning that the library, the Fullerton College Library, can find, okay? So there's, if you notice here, there are almost 3,100 search results. That's a lot, right? That's a lot of time. So based on that, you may want to narrow down your search terms. Because if you see here, like the first things that show up look like kind of biographical research. If you watch the video on biographical research, you'll know kind of more what that means. But we've got some biographies here, right? And then if we scroll down, we've got like his actual artistic output, right? His poetry, we've got his life and letters, right? All kinds of interesting stuff. And as you go, you'll find more and more probably specific stuff, right? So let's see if we narrow it down to Robert Browning and my last Duchess, my last Duchess. That's what I feel like I'm doing whenever I write in caps, is screaming. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so now we've narrowed it down. If we do Robert Browning and my last Duchess, then we narrow it down to 99, right? Which is a little more doable in terms of our research. We have case study number 9, my last Duchess. This looks like it's an academic journal, one, because it says it right there, but also if we look at the way that it's cited, we can kind of tell that it's an academic journal. It's also a PDF full text. That's super helpful because that means the entire article, book, chapter, whatever, what have you, is there to read. You want to make sure that you have full text, right? And so sometimes if you see here on the left, you have that limit to full text. because otherwise you're just going to get usually like an abstract or a title, and that's not helpful in terms of getting the full breadth of research that you need. If you also want to look at the date of publication, right? So we have 2016 here, but if we scroll down to this one from JSTOR, you know, we've got one from 1973. And the problem with finding sources that are a little too old is that so much research has been done since that time, again, to provide more context, more nuance, more in-depth analysis, that the older journals aren't necessarily always helpful. Now, in research, there's always a little asterisk or a little caveat to everything. It may not be helpful to be looking at an article from, say, 1973, but let's say you find an article from the time period in which it was written, in the mid 19, you know, in early Victorian England, when Robert Browning publishes My Last Duchess, right? That might be helpful. Like if it's a review of the poem itself from the time in which it was written, that might be helpful in terms of historical research. Okay, so let's say on the last page, you saw the one that was like the life and letters of Robert Browning. Maybe a letter he wrote to his wife, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, about writing the poem or about publishing the poem or about themes related to the poem, right? That would be historical primary source research that you could use. But this article from like the 70s, that's not a primary source because it's not, you know, it's old, but it's not happening in Robert Browning's lifetime. So it doesn't provide that sort of biographical or cultural context that you would want to find with a historical primary document. Again, I go into that in a little more depth in the types of sources for humanities level research. So you may want to watch that additional video. Okay. And you get all kinds of cool stuff, right? Comparing him to Mark Twain, Robert Browning PlayStation poet, if you're a gamer, right? So this is when research gets kind of fun, because then this poem that at first glance may have been a little confusing or a little out of reach, you know, when we do research on it, it helps us to contextualize it and be like, oh shoot, like I never thought of looking at Robert Browning's My Last Duchess from the lens of a gamer, you know, or from the lens of a Twain aficionado, right? Or from the lens of a biography nerd. And so that helps, right? So this is one search. Again, this is just going to go straight into everything the library has on Robert Browning. Now, that's helpful in terms of breadth, right? In terms of volume, but you may want to get a little more specific. So let's say let's say you're like me and you need that sort of tensile touch type of research that you get from a book. I'm old, so I like print books. Then you can click on catalog if you go back to the white box, and you can put in, right, Robert Browning, and you can see all the kinds of books we have on Robert Browning. Again, a lot of them are going to be biographies, and we even see here some of the same biographies that we saw on that last page, but this is just going to be more specific to actual print or ebook text that we have. Okay. And you can, a collection of critical essays, right? I'm not sure if they're his critical essays or critical essays of him, but if we click on it, it'll tell us, right? And so it looks like, oh, we've got all kinds of critical essays on Robert Browning. But if we look at the dates, we can see, right, they're a little old. So some of them are kind of cool old, like historical document old, like this one from 1890s. So again, you may want to just be cautious and aware of that. So those are print books. Then if we go back to the white box, we can also click on databases. And this is specifically academic journal articles and periodical articles. Lionel, everyone in the video thinks I own a cow the way you're mowing. these are articles that will help you find like specific, very specific stuff on Robert Browning, right? The ones that are humanities specific generally are going to be JSTOR, Academic Search Complete, Project Muse is another one that's not listed here. The ones you might want to kind of stay away from, Gale Opposing Viewpoints and Context. These are helpful if you really don't know a topic. Like if I would say go to this if you have absolutely no idea about a topic and you just want to get a little like better understanding, but you want to maybe stay away from using Gale Opposing Viewpoints and Context as a source because it's a little broad in general. It's like using like a Wikipedia or an encyclopedia. It's helpful in some ways, but it's a little too broad in general for what you need. So let's just say you go to the Mega Mall, the Academic Search Complete, and you have to put in your ID and a password to get onto the library website, which is usually your student ID number and your last name. And let's say here you put in, you know what, we won't even put in Robert Browning. Let's put in My Last Duchess. And I don't know, death? I mean, it's creepy Professor King here, so death is always going to be around, right? All right, well, that one only elicited a very small field because, you know, we got a little specific here. So we've got one that's reference. Again, encyclopedias, references, Gale Opposing Viewpoints, Wikipedia, they're helpful to kind of understand a topic a little bit more. But in terms of using them as a research source, you want to stay away from that because they're too general, they're too broad. Robert Browning's Necropoetics, that sounds cool, right? We click on that. It's a review of something. And we go to the abstract, okay? The article offer and the abstract is always good to read when you're looking at databases because the abstract basically tells you, it's like the intro to an essay. It basically tells you what's going to happen in 200 to 500 words. Lionel, stop. And this abstract says, the article offers criticism on the book-length poem, The Ring in the Book. The author discusses the depiction of the reanimated body in the poem and suggests that Browning includes it to show how the past relates to modern poetics. Interesting symbolism and interpretation, right? Specific topics include the death of Browning's wife, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, his essay on Shelley, his poems, My Last Duchess and Memorabilia, and his rejection of Romanticism. So we've got a lot there that we may or may not want to use in terms of a research source, right? And it gives us kind of a nice general overview of what this, you know, this 20-page article is going to tell us. Why that's helpful is you may read this and go, yeah, that works. I can email this article to myself or save it, right, in this little toolbar on the right. You have all those options. And then when it's time to really do my in-depth research and read, I know this one will be relevant, right? Or you may read this abstract and go, oh, I don't care about any of those aspects of death, right? Like, I want to find something about like death in PlayStation or something like that, right? So there's that. If we just do a search of My Last Duchess in databases, we got 7. That's good, right? And again, some of the ones that we saw from other web pages are here. Great. We know what we want to look for and what we want to avoid. Periodicals, academic journals are great. Reviews can be helpful sometimes, but you have to know the text that it's reviewing, right? You want to, again, references is nice to read to give you kind of more information, but you don't want to use it as a source in your essay, right? And then on the left here, we see like dates of publication. This is a pretty decent range. You might want to go even more recent than what is provided here, which is 1996. If you want to limit it to full text and scholarly or peer-reviewed journal articles, you can also do that. It limits cuts the number down a little bit because it gets rid of like, you know, those encyclopedic references and things like that. And you can play around with search terms, right? So instead of My Last Duchess, you can do Robert Browning and I don't know, death. See if anything different shows up. Oh, we got one more. The reason why we play around with search terms is because all of these articles, these databases, these books, they use algorithms, right? They use specific words to find an article. As someone who's published scholarly journal articles, you actually, a lot of times as the writer, you have to tell the publisher what those search terms are going to be, so that when they publish your article, they can literally just plug them into the algorithm. And then when people are looking up, you know, the topics related to your research, or just the, you know, the research in general, they're maybe not looking for it because it's yours. Those pop up. Like, so for example, I wrote an article that got published on The Accidental Tourist, which was a novel by Ann Tyler that was adapted into a film by Larry Kasdan in the 1980s. And, you know, I had to use these like specific search terms, like, I don't know, feminist theory and Ann Tyler, right? Robert Kasdan. Like, so I tried to think of the search terms that would be most relevant to people looking for my article. And so that's what happens when you're looking for that research. You're basically matching the way that you find the stuff with the way that the publisher or writer thought you would find the stuff, using a couple of words. So sometimes the way that you find a thing is not the way that they anticipated you to, right? So sometimes it's Robert Browning and death. Sometimes it's My Last Duchess and death. Sometimes it's Robert Browning and mortality, right? My Last Duchess and mortality. You got to kind of play around with synonyms and approximations and close seconds, right? Because if you're just like looking for the same two words here, you're going to hit a wall eventually. So you got to be creative with how you do the research. All right. Trying to think if there's anything else. If I go back to the library webpage, just going all the way back. There we go. If there's anything else, oh, there's Game Day Online to help you with. The library hours, the library holidays are going to be posted. And the Ask a Librarian thing is even on the main page. So if you just scroll down a little more, you can find it there. At the bottom here, there are also helpful guides, not even necessarily just for this class, but for, I mean, there are stuff for this class, but for chemistry and, you know, APA and MLA citations. So stuff that can help you. So keep all that in mind. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to take it off share screen now. If any other questions, comments, or concerns arise, I am more than happy to help with those. We scared Lionel away. He got so upset that I wasn't paying attention to him that he stomped off and went to go lie on my bed, because I'm a permissive dog mom and they basically get to do whatever they want, as I'm sure you've gathered from watching my videos, right? All right, well, I hope that helped. And again, email, Canvas, Pronto, Zoom, however you want to get a hold of me, I'm here to help. So I hope you have a wonderful, now he's back. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend, and I'll see you all in cyberspace. Bye.